Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. We're very happy and excited to have you in this session today. My name is Miriam Castañeda Solares. I'm the External Affairs and Advocacy Manager at STAR Network, and welcome to this session entitled Recovering Costs More Equitably, an Important Step in Rebalancing Power. Before we start, we want to make sure that everyone joining today's session can fully participate and freely express your opinion. To make this easier, you can download the slides we'll be presenting today in French and Spanish. And we recognize that there are a lot of very important languages that are missing today, but we're in the process of increasing the availability of our documents, reports, and other products in other languages. We're not quite there yet. So for now, those are the 3 languages that are going to be available. Also, you can turn on the automatic captions in Spanish and French for this session. Lastly, please feel free to introduce yourselves and share your comments in the chat. We will have a space for questions and answers in a few minutes, and we are eager to hear from you because this is really what STAR Network's Assembly is all about: sharing, questioning, and learning together. So please do share your thoughts, comments, and questions today. Lucy Puentes, the head of the STAR Funds, will be moderating the chat. So thank you, Lucy, for your support. So today we're going to be discussing a topic that touches many different areas of our work, from the very programmatic side to a more advocacy-linked approach. And it also relates to creating a more balanced and locally led system, which is ultimately STAR Network's vision: a locally led humanitarian system accountable to people affected by and at risk of crisis. At STAR Network, we believe in the importance of directly funding our local members and partners. However, we recognize that there are fundamental challenges that need to be addressed. And while we are working on overcoming those system-wide issues, we also believe in taking action with the immediate things we can and have control to change or to influence. And STAR Fund Bangladesh proves that exactly. Consistent small changes can really make a difference. And we don't need huge platforms or international pledges. We need will to make those things happen. I won't go into any details on definitions, but for the sake of this discussion, when we talk about indirect cost recovery, also known as non-program attributable costs, NPAC, we're referring to the ongoing expenses of an organization not directly attributed or associated with a project. These costs are faced by local, national, and international organizations. And although there have been several discussions on this, from the grand bargain to individual organization pledges, and some very positive emergent guidance from donors, the reason why we wanted to bring this discussion to the table is because a more equitable sharing of ICR across the sector, and especially across our membership, is a concrete and tangible way to make progress towards locally led action. And we have 3 key messages to share with you today. Firstly, local and national NGOs who partner with international NGOs often do not receive ICR despite being the first and closest responders to deliver humanitarian aid. Secondly, an equitable share of ICR amongst all aid partners is a step forward to creating a more just humanitarian system and enables a more balanced share of power. And finally, ICR sharing is a key tool for local and national organizations' sustainability, as it gives them the agency and decision-making power to improve their systems, enhance their capacity, and be better prepared to act before the next crisis. For my personal experience, I've had many conversations with local organizations, and this topic is constantly being flagged, especially when we ask them about the obstacles that they face. And bringing this discussion to our annual assembly, especially with this year's theme, Changing Mindsets, Transforming Systems, I believe it is a great opportunity to unpack some challenges as a membership, but also, and perhaps more importantly, to realize that these changes or these challenges can be tackled and have been already successfully addressed by some of our local and international members that have taken courageous steps in Bangladesh. We want to share with you at this point a small video about STAR Fund Bangladesh. that today we can all learn from Star Fund Bangladesh path and feel supported by our peers. I will now give the floor to Sajid Rehan, Star Fund Bangladesh Country Manager, and Mohammed Fakrul Islam, Star Fund Bangladesh Partnership Coordinator. The floor is yours, and just to remember, please do share your questions and comments on the chat.
Thank you, Miriam. So good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the presentation from the Start Fund Bangladesh. This presentation is made up of the kind of data sets we have from our different alerts during the last 4 years. The topic is the recovering cost more equitably, and then why we are addressing this particular issue as an important step in rebalancing power. If I start with the moral of the presentation. Yeah. In start, we talk a lot about having a more equitable humanitarian system. And then we feel that in order to create a more equitable humanitarian system and then anti-racist institutions, the humanitarian sector must first acknowledge the role the neo-colonial legacies continues to play in the humanitarian assistance and protection activities and within humanitarian organizations, which are most at need of equity-driven systematic change. We have three key facts that I think it's very, very important to understand. One is the shrinking space of local NGOs. And because of that, we see that nowadays there are less or no money from the donors for organizational development, and which is why organizations being unable to strengthen their systems and processes, and thereby heavily impacted the capacities to respond. The second fact is that funds are not also going directly to local NGOs, and then local NGOs have little or no access to ICR, which is also hampering their income, incentives, longer-term investments, and organizational development. The third key fact, which is also very, very important, that it is widely perceived that NGOs do not have capacities, and perceptions prevails as there are little or no evidence. And finally, we see that there exists a power imbalance, and then there are systems, if we continue with the system, that continue producing the imbalance, and then which is why we need to address those imbalances through a systematic change. And that systematic change needs to be equity driven. This particular slide, I mean, again, coming from the statistics from our different alerts, if you see the blue pillars are the implementing expenditure, and the green pillars are the ICR that's taken by INGOs. And if we see from these that in most cases, though the local NGOs do most of the implementation work, but 0% of ICR goes to those organizations. And from 2017 to 2018, we have seen that in the different alerts, the local national NGO partner expenditure was accounted for around 83% of the total disbursement cost. But out of that, only 0% went to local national NGO as the ICR cost. So when we identified the problem in terms of, from an equity perspective, that there is a kind of injustice in a way that we are not sharing ICR, and which is kind of impacting the local national NGOs capacity development and organizational development, we then took a three-pronged approach. One was the kind of, negotiating with the INGOs and also trying to nudge the local NGOs that they need to kind of demand a fair share of ICR from their implementing, from their partner INGOs. The second thing, we tried to inspire them. We sat with them and we support them so that they can come up with an organizational system strengthening plan by themselves. And then we were trying to see whether if those organizations, if they have proper share of the ICR, and if they have an organizational system strengthening plan, and if they can invest ICR in the organizational system strengthening plan, whether that also inspires the local national NGOs to claim fair share of the ICR. So now I will hand it over to Fokrul, who will be presenting specific case studies on the sharing of the ICR, the impacts from the sharing of the ICR. Fokrul, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sajid Bhai, and thank you our distinguished participants. So already Sajid mentioned our strategy, and in 2019 we have assumed some changes. So so what is the changes? So we have seen after 2019, INGO's country offices have more engagement, ownership over the LR cycle management and the process, which was formerly managed and coordinated by local NGOs and global offices. So what has been changed in 2019? So local and national NGO members started accessing fund directly from July 2019, and in 2020, 80% of SFB funding went directly to local and national NGOs. And it gives local and national NGOs the scope and confidence to negotiate ICR sharing with their INGO counterparts. That's the first change we observed. And second, we have seen from July 2019 to December 2020, 7 SFB member INGOs access fund directly, and 5 of them shared ICR with local partners. And total ICR amount channeled during this period, 3,4,700 to 1,002 through INGO and local NGO. And out of them, we have seen a major portion of ICR went directly or indirectly to local and national NGOs. Third, we also observed it also encourages partnership diversity, especially INGOs as implementing partner in local NGO-led consortium and having equal share of ICR. So we already described what have been changed, but how this change happened. So we have seen INGO country offices have more engagement, ownership over the LR cycle management process. That's a main thing that happened after 2019. And pre-position funds at country level and mandatory funds transfer from post national bank accounts to awarded agencies. National account previously it went through 4 to 5 different layers. And another thing, we were nudging our members on equitable ICR sharing, and we shared ICR data and good practices with our member agencies, and that basically influenced them to promote equal share of ICR among the members. And we also talked with individuals, and individuals inspired to initiate internal advocacy between different offices from the same agencies. And as a result, several INGOs negotiated with their global offices to claim fair share of ICR from their headquarters, and with the purpose of sharing ICR with partners in country. So what is the impact? We have seen local and national NGOs started receive funds directly, and INGOs began to share ICR with local partners. And local and national NGOs realized that they need a plan for long-term sustainability. And they started to develop an organizational roadmap that's called co-creation, and it's also informed by due diligence in 2018. And another thing we have seen, investing ICR amount in the development of their systems, compliance, and internal control mechanism. That's a great impact as they are directly accessing fund, and their partner also shared ICR with them. So we have seen, if you see the bar, we have seen there was a 6 pillars that came from DDA contacted in 2018, and we provided them recommendation to improve their certain capacities, and as well as they have a organizational development roadmap, and they invested their ICR amount in a different area. So we have seen local and national NGOs significantly invested ICR amount, improve their financial management capacity, systems and process and governance. That's a great impact. And finally, we have we initiated a process, organizational system strengthening initiative, that is called OSSI. In 2019 to 2020, we extensively worked with 5 local NGOs who had invested their ICR income to implement organizational system strengthening plan. And these local and national NGOs in 2020 have increased due diligence capacities compared to the due diligence conducted in 2018. So there's a great impact on ICR. So now this is the time to hear from our member agencies. Thank you.
Thanks, Sajid and Fakrul. Such interesting insights, and so many questions are coming to my mind, but what really struck me is how the different pieces of the puzzle come together, and some very abstract concepts that sometimes we might feel too overwhelmed to even start addressing them are actually intertwined. Sajid, you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation the need to build an anti-racist network, and perhaps a very tangible way to move into action is to really listen to local partners that are not asking for more than an equitable share. And I remember when we were thinking about how to structure this session with Sajid and Fakrul, we thought that it would be really important to have our brave organizations that are already doing this work with us today. So we will listen first to Dulon Joseph Gomez. He is the Humanitarian and Emergency Affairs Director at World Vision Bangladesh. And we would like to hear more about your experience and the role of INGOs on ICR sharing, and why did World Vision Bangladesh decide to get on board? So Dulon, the floor is yours. Sorry, Dulon, I think that you're on mute.
Okay, thank you very much. And welcome everybody. So I'll directly go to the point. So from the previous presentation, we very clearly see the journey of Start Fund Bangladesh in Bangladesh, and the process they try to maintain to ensure that there is a fair share of ICR within the NGOs, local organization, and INGOs. So World Vision, you know, that World Vision is one of the well-known INGOs globally. We are working in different countries, and in Bangladesh, we have a strong footprint working directly, implementing at community level, and also we working through a partnership with the local partner. So we have experience to implement several Start Fund projects along with the other donors for emergency situation. So even World Vision, whenever we start working with the partnership, we always try to see actually how we can support our partner or can strengthen their capacity in terms of access resource, in terms of their organizational development. So World Vision is one of the global signatory for localization. So that's why one of the strong agendas in Bangladesh is to support the localization agenda and to support the local partner for their capacity building. So we find the sharing of ICR is one of the strong component actually where we can give the opportunity to our partners so that they can also get the ownership, they can get empowerment. Because we saw earlier the most of the partners, they did not have direct access to start fund, even whenever they had the access, whenever they went for the partnership with the INGOs. So they did not get the ICR share. And at World Vision level, what we did, we work with our global office, and very clearly we agree with them. As it's a start fund Bangladesh, so World Vision Bangladesh, we will get direct access to the start fund. In this case, our global office or our support office or headquarters, they will not claim any ICR from our national office. So that was the first level agreement we made. And then at our national level, whenever we started working with our partners, we found the reality that actually partner needs some kind of cost that is really very important for their some certain expenditure. So whatever Sajid mentioned also, that is the organizational development, that means the preparedness capacity building, as well as also to take the proper, that means human resource getting on board, that is really very important for them, and where the cost or the budget is very important. So considering this one, actually at national level, we at leadership level, we bring this issue that how can we share our ICR with our partners. So initial stage, actually our policy also, our strategy was also saying, let's see how much we can see, because it's a very small fund most of the cases, and even though it is not the source for income for World Vision like this, but still there was some kind of strategy that how much we need to be keeping our pot. But considering the entire context, so we decided let's start sharing ICR with our partners. So at the beginning, we did not go for a huge sharing. It was around 70-30% sharing with the partner. Then we made the benchmark around 50-50 sharing with the partner about the ICR. And in that case, I can say the initiative from our humanitarian team, as well as the positive attitude from our leadership, as well as our financial policy. That means we did not drastically change policies, but there was a kind of gentleman agreement. Okay, we can consider, because there is always room actually from where we can take opportunity to support our partner, and definitely we consider that one. And now we are following this one, even not only for the start fund, even for the other donors also. We are currently doing the same practice. So I think that is really a good practice we have started in Bangladesh, especially from World Vision Bangladesh. That also encouraging the other INGOs, and we are really very happy that currently around 5 INGOs we have started this process, where World Vision we have started the journey first, and we are very hopeful whenever we are saying organizational development, localization, and the empowerment of the local and national organization. So this ICR sharing is a kind of indicator which give the good sign, or would give a good approach that actually we are giving space for the local organization. So thank you very much. That is a sharing from my end.
Thanks so much, Julian. I know that you worked very hard on negotiating this with country offices, and World Vision is really leading by example. Now I'd like to give the floor to Yibuk Hussein. He's the head of climate action and humanitarian response at SEEP, the Social and Economic Enhancement Program. And Yibuk, we want to hear from your side, and if you could tell us or share some of your experience, and also some of the benefits that your organization is currently experiencing because of this practice. So Yibuk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mariam. Good morning to you. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. So thank you again for the opportunity, for giving me the opportunity to talk here. So from the perspective of ICR sharing, I can share my experience here that we have implemented 4 projects with the Start Fund network and in Bangladesh. And initially, we have implemented one project with partnership with an NGO, and then we implemented a project in a consortia with Caritas Bangladesh. Then independently, we implemented 2 projects. So from that experience, from the first project, we did not get any ICR, and in consortia project, we shared the ICR 50-50, and last 2 projects, we could take the ICR whole. So what we did with that ICR? So we had an organizational development plan by utilizing the ICR, and some of the activities had done very well, but most of the interventions remain halted due to the unavailability of ICR. So if the organization avail more ICR, it will be initiate the procedures for accomplished the rest interventions as well. And I share what we did. That in COVID situation, we have implemented some projects, and there we prepositioned some healthy hygiene and safety materials for the staffs and volunteers, and we have strengthened our due diligence capacity, and we have just adopt some policies and hired a consultant to review our some policies and to take some policies as well. And with that ICR, we published some learning materials and shared with our donors, partners, and other stakeholders. And we also printed some IC materials with that ICR. And what we did in the internal control mechanism for the financial system. So we had planned to utilize the software, but we couldn't do that due to the not having the sufficient fund. So if we get more ICR in future, the driving forces for any organization that motivates not only for ensuring strong adherence, I'd say, with funding, but agency, but also utilize amount help to improve program quality in future endeavors. And as nothing is free, so we realize that with the ICR, it will also be used effectively, which is more like our turn to give back from what we have learned and gained through our collective experiences. So in future, we'll hope that the donor agencies and the INGOs will share ICR. But from my experience, we have, I can say that now we are getting the ICR from Start Farm partnership, but beyond that, we are not getting any ICRs for strengthening the organizational internal capacity. So I request the INGOs and the other NGOs and donors to share the ICR with the local partners to promoting the localization, the agendas. So thank you everybody for hearing me.
Thanks so much, Yibuk. And it is quite amazing to see the direct impact to the local ownership and sustainability of local organizations. So thanks so much for sharing this with us. So I would like to open the floor now to questions from our audience. I can see that we have quite a few already. But if Fakrul, Sajid, Dul, and Yibuk, if you can turn your cameras on so we can see you, and we will start with this part of the session. So thanks, Lucy, for sharing the questions with me. So one question that we have is, what percentage of ICR did the INGOs share with their local partners? Was it an equal share? Have you considered making it a requirement for all members to always share ICR with local and national NGOs and partners? So perhaps Sajid, if you can start with this question, or Fakrul.
I start with, and then Fakrul, if you have any specific data you can provide. So in terms of the percentage of ICR, there is no fixed or set percentage for ICR. It's, as I was saying, that it's an issue of negotiation, the way the local partners, implementing partners are negotiating with their INGO counterparts. Can we make it a requirement? Yes, probably. But then because it's a membership-based organization, it has to be a collective decision at the Start Fund Bangladesh Executive Committee and General Committee level. But I think the evidence that we are generating now and the kind of demand that will be coming from the local national NGO member organizations will make it happen one day, and that will be soon, I hope. But again, it has to be a demand from the local national NGOs. We from the Secretariat will definitely facilitate the discussions at the wider humanitarian sector. Over.
Yes, I would like to add with Sajid Bhai. So whenever we talked with our local and national NGO members, so they demand equitable ICR from their partner. For example, when a partner implemented a project, maybe that is 70% of the total project. So then they demand 70% of ICR of the total ICR. So that's kinds of demand from local and national NGOs. Maybe in coming days, there can be a discussion what would be the requirement and what would be the agreement in future. Thank you.
Great. We have quite a few questions, actually. I want to ask this question to Yibuk. So it says, what does ICR enable your organization to do that isn't otherwise possible? What are the elements where an organization can fall behind without ICR? Essentially, why is it so vital? So Yibuk or Dulan, if you want to answer this question.
Okay, I can support Jacob also in this case. Yes, I think whatever I mentioned, that ICR is really important for any organization, whether it's for INGO or even for local or national organization. And Jacob in his presentation very clearly mentioned at what purpose they used that ICR. But from my aspect, I can say ICR actually gave a kind of strength of ownership for the organization. So whenever they get the ICR, there is a kind of accountability ultimately developed within the organization to take any kind of action with a highest priority. But whenever they do not get a ICR, from my aspect, maybe it will sound kind of different word that they'll sometimes find, okay, we are kind of contractor just implementing the project. But whenever they get the ICR, so that is actually give them a very strong ownership and also accountability. And in terms of local organization, because we can always say they have very strong knowledge presence, but in terms of organizational capacity building, sometimes there is a huge need. And with this ICR amount, they can invest this one for their preparedness, for their equipment, as well as for their total organizational development. Thank you.
Thank you, Dulan. Yibuk, do you want to add anything to this question?
Yeah, thank you, Mariam. Yes, I agree with Dulan Bhai, and I'll say that for the other development projects, so we'll request to the NGOs and the donor to share the ICR so that we can improve our organizational capacity and we can sustain better.
Can I add also, Miriam?
Yes, of course.
I think there is also an issue of respect and partnership, and it's going beyond contracting or subcontractual relationship and respecting the kind of shared responsibility and shared ownership over the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Sajid. So another question that we have is, what has been the attitude of INGOs and headquarters towards the ICR sharing? ICR is a precious commodity to a lot of headquarters, and a lot of donors fix the amount of ICR they are willing to give. So have headquarters been open to it? How difficult, easy has it been to persuade them? This is a really good question. So I don't know, Sajid, Fakrul, Yibuk, Dulan, maybe your comments would also be really interesting to hear.
Okay, if I start. In terms of the attitude, from the data where we have seen that, for example, if there are consortium between INGOs, in between INGOs, then the INGOs are sharing ICR with other INGOs. But then when there is a consortium where INGO is, the implementing partners are other local national NGO, they are not sharing the ICR. So even in terms of attitude of sharing the ICR, there is a divide in between whether it's an INGO implementing partner or it's a local national NGO implementing partner. The other thing that's also very, very important that, whenever we ask our INGO colleagues, they say that most of the ICR, in fact, lion percentage of the ICR kept by the headquarters. So in fact, the ICR percentage is not coming to the southern country offices. So which also gives them very little space to share ICR with their implementing local national NGO. So there are northern, southern kind of divide, and there is an INGO, NGO kind of divide. So I think these are the most important attitude issue that we have observed.
Fakrul, Dulan or Yibuk, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, just I would like to add one thing here. So yes, that is very true. So in terms of headquarter and at national level, INGOs, they have this kind of challenge. So whatever I mentioned, so for in terms of start fund, we have fixed with our headquarter, but still this kind of challenge will continue in future, not for World Vision, for other agency. It's not only for start fund, there is other donor also. Suppose I can tell very clearly, suppose recently we have implemented one project with the UK donor. So that means at that project, we gave the lion portion of ICR to the partner organization. But this will be not the stable story for future also, because internal policy procedure is not always flexible. But I can say we have very honest and clear opinion that how can we change this culture and attitude. In that case, I can say the headquarter level or that level policy procedure or that kind of discussion need to continue among the NGOs. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dulan. If there's, okay, so I'll move to the next question because we still have quite a few. So this is a comment and a question. It says, I recognize and buy into the arguments about equitably relating to ICR sharing, but in the experience of the presenters, were there any unintended or seemingly negative incentives introduced when ICR has been shared? So Sajid, Fakrul, maybe you want to answer that question. And if not, Yibuk, I would also like to hear from you.
Negative incentive, some of the kind of negative vibe that we get, for example. So when, for example, we nudge the local NGOs that why not you negotiate your proper share of ICR with the awarded agency when you are implementing a particular project. At times we have heard that, I mean, they do not want to, pursue that much with their INGO counterpart because start fund is not the end. So there are other also funding that's coming to those INGOs, and they don't want to kind of create that challenge, that status quo in terms of when asking for INGO. So that's, I think, one of the kind of challenge that's coming from the NGOs, and also the local national NGOs not finding it very comfortable to do the negotiation with their long-standing INGO partners. So that's one of the negative vibe. But in terms of the negative incentives, what we have seen, it's not a negative incentive, but sometimes while we try to understand how they are utilizing the ICR. One is that it's not mandatory, or you are not bound to share the information how you are utilizing ICR. Yes, because that's for organizational purpose. But at times we have also seen that, yes, the organizations are utilizing the ICR, but when they are not always, documenting or always tracking the amount that is going beyond these interventions. So I think it is very, very important that whenever we are using the ICR, it has to be, it's good that it's transparent, it's good that we can track those, and it's good that we document those evidence, because if we really need to establish the justification of organizational development facilitated by ICR, I think we need evidence that are backed by data and that are transparent and more accountable to the communities we are working with.
Thank you, Sajid. I'll move to the next question. And it says, should local NGOs should have to tie their ICR to organizational development plans? I can see how you use this as a negotiation tool, but this is not the case for INGOs. Are we introducing another inequity by adopting this policy? So really interesting questions and tough questions. I don't know who wants to try to answer that question. Fakrul, Dulan, Yvuk? Or you, Sajid, if you feel that you want to answer that.
No, I mean, it's not going to be a fixed policy, definitely. The reason why we are approaching it with the institutional development, organizational development, is because that's the demand that's coming from the local organization, that we need sustained organizational development, but there are no resources to do that because currently the donors do not invest in organizational development. Now, if we even look at the kind of financial arrangement at the INGO level, I think it's also a success story of how the INGOs are utilizing this indirect cost recovery in their organizational development. So coming from there, this is one, but it is not mandatory that organizations have to use it for their organizational development. The reason why we are doing it is just to kind of give them an impression that if we get ICR, if we can negotiate a fair share of ICR, it can really contribute to whatever we wish to do as an organization.
Thank you. And this one is for you, Dulan. And it says, is World Vision sharing ICR globally in all programs with their national and local partners? Or is this only for Starfund Bangladesh?
Okay, for World Vision, actually, whatever I'm sharing that is about World Vision Bangladesh. So it is not only for Start Fund. So whenever we receive any fund from any other donor at national level, especially in World Vision Bangladesh, so whenever we work through partnership, so we currently are going through the practice, at least we share a certain percentage of ICR with the local partner. So that is only not for Start Fund, and that is not the, I cannot say, because we are operating around 100 countries, other countries practice, but in Bangladesh, we have bring this in a culture almost. So you can say at this stage, whenever our headquarter or global office work with us, they know World Vision Bangladesh, we share a certain part of ICR with our local partner. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dulan. And we have a few other questions, but we don't have time to answer those now. And we only have a couple of minutes left, actually. And I want to share 3 takeaways and calls to action for all of us. And as we know, Star Network is a diverse membership by design. And the logic behind it is that we all have a role to play and an individual responsibility to build this locally led system. So in a time when local civil organization space is shrinking, ICR sharing can be a key tool for local organization sustainability and strengthening. Also, international organizations can truly build a partnership model and can become game changers in this process. We don't need to wait. We can act now and reach out to our colleagues from country offices to headquarters, and we can be internal advocates for this change. And as Star Network, we can review our policies and think more strategically how we can bring together our diverse members to commit to more good and fair practices. So thank you, Sajid, Fakrul, and all our colleagues at Starfund Bangladesh for your honesty and resilience throughout this year. and for setting such a high standard for the rest of the organization. I also want to thank Dulon and Newbook for being so courageously today and sharing your hurdles and successes with us, and Lucy, the head of Star Funds, who has been our chat moderator today. So please don't forget to check the Network of Networks Learn Corner. And if you want to know more about ICR sharing, please do get in touch with us. Have an amazing second day at our virtual assembly. Thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you, Miriam, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.